Hi, guys. Happy Monday. Even though this technically is being recorded Monday night, so you will technically see this on Tuesday. But I wanted to make sure that I keep trying to at least get one of these out a week. And so far, I've been doing okay. So this week, I was stretched. It has been a challenge. However, let's get to it because otherwise, I'll get caught up in that. So there are two things I wanted to share that came up this past week. When it comes to, the question I left with you guys or left you guys with last week had to do with signal versus noise. And man, that has followed me even into, the end of this week and is just really, I continue to try to use that as my guidance. The topic that I feel is important to share that came up for me going into this week that could maybe be a contribution for any listener. And bear with me here because at first it may come across a little heavy because of the topic. However, it is very much a human experience, and that's the experience of grief. For me, this is me stepping into bravery, FYI, because this is a very difficult topic for me to talk about. So, Sunday was Father's Day, and whether you're just getting to know me or you've known my past and you know my history, there's been a lot of healing that has needed to be done the majority of my life in the area of my father, especially my biological father. My biological father was not the kindest father growing up. And now that, he's at the age that he's at, I don't choose to participate in his life and I don't choose to share my life with him. And that's just what has created more for me. It has given me the ability to be able to work on forgiveness without the old beliefs of, and this is from my point of view. Please keep this in mind as I share these things and as you listen. But I feel something again that I brought up in, turning 40. I really think our generation has been a very powerful generation when it comes to ending generational trauma and generational secrecies and generational, norms of we don't talk about this, we pretend this. And I think millennials was the generation where it's like we're not doing this, we're calling it out like it is. And so I do it in my own way, in a respectful way that respects the rest of my family. It took years of therapy for me to get at this level. However, where this relates to grief more than anything is growing up, and I prep you that this is a very vulnerable space for me to share. And I knew that this would be powerful to share, and I knew what it was going to require, and it took me all day to get ready for this. And it's interesting because I wanted to record on Saturday, and I just couldn't get to it the whole weekend. So whatever this is, it's meant to be, and I'm just going to go with it, okay? In hopes that it's reaching whomever it needs to reach whenever you listen to it. So here goes. There is a man in my life that now is with me and is connected to me spiritually and no longer here physically. And this man was my brother-in-law initially. For those of you that just got to know me or are getting to know me or I knew in my life. And my sister is 15 years older than me, my eldest sister. So she grew up in my life like a second mother. And she played that role and continues to do so. I'm very blessed to have more than one mother, is the way that I see it. Well, when I was born, shortly after, she met someone and they were high school sweethearts, fell in love. They created a family at a very young age. It was a blessing in disguise, which is my niece, my eldest niece. I was only 4 years old when I was an auntie. And it was the best thing because I was an oops in my family. I am the youngest, and my mom was nearly 40 when I was born. So, and she was the youngest in her family, and my grandmother was almost 40 when my mother was born. So, I've been around elders since my existence. You know, everyone around me was always older. And so, these individuals, you know, I got very lucky because I had a lot of guidance from many, many people. And so my eldest sister, you know, she met Robert. And Robert and I, at the beginning, actually didn't get along. We were very jealous of each other because we were very territorial of my sister. You know, she fell in love with him, and so I was very jealous because I was her everything at a very young age. She would take care of me. And you know, he was looking at it like you're taking attention away from me and my time with my girlfriend, you know. So anyway, long story short, life passes by and he and I realize that we have a lot to offer each other. Um, I felt very safe in their home growing up because my father was not the safest man to be around. And so their house was everything for me. It was a safe haven. And he pretty much played the role of what I needed in a father. And I couldn't be more grateful. And I couldn't be more grateful to my nieces and my nephew for sharing him with me in that way. And I mean, there's a whole story. I can I don't want to take up this entire call just on the history because my intention here is to be a contribution on giving guidance around grief and what it is and how it shows up. Um, he's no longer with us. He left us in 2023. Physically, he left us because something that I want to invite anybody that's been through something similar. And even then, I want to acknowledge, because I always like to make sure I'm respectful of my nieces and my nephew, that in no way do I say that my pain is anywhere near theirs, you know, in losing their father. It's just that he was just the closest thing that I had to that role in respecting it and it being what any girl wants in her life when it comes to that role, you know, and what we learn about that role and what that role can entail. And I know that a big part of who I am and my character was because of his love and his guidance. So anyway, one thing I want to share that I think can be a contribution to many people when it comes to this topic is the fact that we are energetic beings having a human experience. And so many of us in the moment, of course, and even after, and it looks different for everybody. And I want to say this with the utmost respect because this has been my process. I do not want to in any way disrespect anyone else's grief or process. I just always, just like I promised in this channel, would always offer different points of views. And so a point of view when it comes to death is it's just different. The person just transforms into something different the same way that a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly. You know, in essence, the person, whomever the being is very much alive. It is only the human body that expired. It is only the third dimension part that is no longer, you know, having life in it. But life continues. It just looks different. And I said this earlier to one of my clients, you know, that the day that it happened and I physically had to see him for the first time, you know, in a different way. I remember that I had to repeat over and over again out loud. It's just different. It's just different. It's just different. That's all I had to remind myself so that I didn't buy into the belief that he was gone, in the way that I could never access him, because that could be far from the truth. He's pretty fun. He loves to have fun with us as a family, and how he shows up for us, continues to show up for us spiritually. Music is one of his favorite ways. And so, anyway, yesterday I took the day to just be and to be with myself and to respect the space, just the space of what the day, can bring up for me. And surprisingly, especially compared to the past couple of years since it happened, I felt pretty good about how, I just spent time being kind to myself. And then this morning, though, I woke up and I just woke up waterworks all the way. And I'm like, yep, this is grief. Grief is very interesting. And the biggest invitation that I can give you when it comes to grief is there's no room for judgment. Grief needs to be something that is just honored as the human experience, because you know what? Death is part of the human experience. None of us escape it. Every single one of us is going to go through it. We all have an expiration date. And so when we remember, it's part of the process. There's this video from Steve Jobs that I love and I show to my clients often. And he describes death as one of the most beautiful parts of life because it keeps us grateful. It keeps us present. It reminds us that we're not here forever. It's a temporary moment. And so it's really important to honor our choices, because our choices end up creating whatever we're creating in this life. And then that's it. So what do you want to create before it's over? I just love it. There's this tool with Access Consciousness that's also a lot of fun, which is to live your life in 10-second increments. What would you choose in these 10 seconds if you only had 10 seconds left? And I love it because it's very radical in the way that it brings us back to, man, I don't have time to fucking worry about bullshit. It's about being present, and it's about, turning your attention to the signal, not the noise. So for me, I try to treat my grief in a way of just honoring it when it comes up. And my grief is very interesting because it came with some very heavy experiences. When he passed, it was not just his passing. It came with, it simultaneously had other heartbreaking events happen with it at the same time. Literally in the same week and the same day that we buried him. Other things were going on in my life also that were very heavy. And so for me, it's just a process. It's been one of the biggest areas of my life that I've had to work on healing in my adulthood and possibly in my entire life. So anyway, I just wanted to speak to those points of views, see if it could reach anybody that needs to hear it. And sometimes we're not ready. There is nothing that anybody can say to give any kind of lightness in the moment, because you're just in the experience of it. And the experience it can be very, very challenging. Everybody's different too. And I think that's part of the challenge is there's so much judgment on this is how it's supposed to look like, and something's wrong that this person hasn't cried or that this person hasn't this. And, it's just something that is part of the human experience. And it's something that keeps us on our toes and reminds us that at any moment, anything can change. And so what do you want to do? What do you want to do with these seconds of your life, these moments, these minutes? Because they're passing, they're actively passing. And how are we spending our time? What are we putting attention to? Where could we be putting our attention? so that when that moment comes, we know, man, it was fucking awesome while I was here. Yeah, there was some challenging times and there was some moments that sucked, but fuck, I love my life. It was fucking awesome. Like, how can we create that response for us to be able to reflect on in those seconds of the flash of what life is, and everything that it had to offer, and what did we choose? And so, yeah, it's kind of a mess, but grief is a mess. It's very messy. So I'm gonna let this be messy, and I'm gonna let it be raw and vulnerable, and I'm just gonna let it be what it is. And I think what feels light for me in sharing this vulnerable space with you all is to end it with gratitude. Because in the end, I'm so thankful. I'm thankful for what this teaches me. I'm thankful for now having the ability to share it in this way, which is not easy for me. And I'm thankful for you, Robert. I'm thankful that you treated me the way you did when you didn't have to. And I'm thankful that you taught me everything that you did, and that you still show up in your own unique way. And it's so much fun. And I do miss you physically. I do miss you so much. But I'm just grateful that the connection remains and the guidance remains. And I'm just thankful. Thank you. And thank you to everyone else who made it all the way through on this call and just shared this space with me. And I hope it's a contribution to you in any way that it can be. Have a great week, everybody.